everybody. I hope I'm live. I forgot to open up the window that tells me if I'm live or not, so I'm doing that now. But hello, welcome. I'm already starting a little late, so I just wanted to get started, even though I'm not 100% all there, but I will be shortly. Okay. Let's see. Okay, cool, I'm here. You guys should be hearing me and seeing me. Let me know if you're not for some reason. So thanks for being here. I actually announced this ahead of time. I announced it yesterday. So what I was going to do, and what I am doing, is I'm going to be playing the bass lines for my new album that I'm recording with my friend Laura on violin. We are recording 3 Baroque violin sonatas on period instruments, a sonata by Corelli, Vivaldi, and Handel. So it's a really fun, accessible program. I feel like so many people are going to love this music. It just appeals to the masses for sure, while still being a part of the Baroque music sphere that I play. Hi, hey you guys. I guess this is what happens when I actually promote this ahead of time. People show up right on time. That's great. Hey everybody. Hi Kevin, thanks for stopping by. Hi guys. So yeah, I was a little frantic this morning and getting everything started and set up. So the stream is set up here, but what I really kind of wanted to do was also show you guys the sheet music, but that's a little bit more complicated. I do have the files here, but like I can't change the pages in real time or anything like that. So in order to show you guys the music, I have to kind of set up the page that I'm going to do and then put it on the screen, and then I'd have to come and change it when we go to a new page. But I can at least get started with some of that, if you guys don't mind me doing it now. And I'm leaving the sound on my phone. Maybe I'll turn it off at this moment, but that way, if anybody does donate to the album fundraiser, which I'm going to talk about, I'll get a notification on my phone and I will know right away, which is great because sometimes I can't monitor the notifications in real time. Okay, so I'm pulling up the music here so I can at least, maybe I won't be able to show the music for everything that I play today, but I'd like to be able to show some of it because I do think it's going to help a lot as you're watching me kind of work on the bass lines. I think it'd be nice if you can follow along with the music too. So it's finding the right sonata. I get all my music on imslp.org, especially for Baroque music. It's an amazing free resource. They've got a lot of times facsimiles, which are the old handwritten copies that I typically use, and they also have modern editions. All right, where is this sonata? But usually the PDF files, like what I'm going through now, include like all the sonatas of the particular opus or whatever they are. So now I am scrolling through to find the right sonata. Probably should have made a note of where it is in here. Oh, I must have missed it. Square one. Let's go back again. I know you guys can't even see what I'm doing. Oh, it's the first one. That's easy enough. Okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining already. Sorry this is off to a slow start. If you guys are watching, if you're watching the archive of this after it's live, feel free to go skip a few minutes ahead past the intro and everybody getting here. All right, we're gonna see if this works with me sharing the sheet music. Okay. How are you guys all doing? It's Monday. It's gloomy here in LA. May gray is a thing. June gloom is a thing. So it's been kind of gray, which I have not been loving. I definitely moved here for the sunshine, so been a little bit down about that, but otherwise good. Okay, so this is gonna be, I think I'm gonna do the Vivaldi Sonata first, but I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it once we really get going. Let's see. Boom, there it is. You guys should be seeing it. And so in order to read it and actually see me when I'm playing, you're going to want to full screen the video. And hopefully the quality is okay. I'm going to make this go away for right now, but I will bring it back when it's time to play. Hey everybody! Thank you guys so much for being here. It really means a lot to me that you guys watch my live streams. Okay, so I'm gonna get back in my chair, talk a little bit about what's going on, and then we'll get into the playing. So, if you somehow missed it, even though I've been promoting it everywhere very loudly, I have a new album coming out, which is such a big deal for me because I really got my start doing these self-produced albums. I released an album way back in 2013 called Bass Sounds that was all unaccompanied 17th century Baroque music on solo cello. And then I did Bass Sounds Evolved the following year. So those albums really were how I got my start after I finished school and I was out in the professional world being a freelancer. But after doing those two albums, they were so much work and I put so much preparation into those programs, so I didn't really want to do another album for a little while, so I started focusing just on my YouTube videos, stuff like that. I formed a string quartet, we were playing concerts around Boston where I was living, so I was kind of off the album grind for a while, but I knew that I eventually wanted to do another album. I just didn't know when and where and how it was going to all come together. And I got to talking with my friend Laura, who's an amazing Baroque violinist. She's based in San Francisco, and we decided it would be super fun to do an album, the two of us. So we're recording 3 violin sonatas on period instruments, Corelli, Vivaldi, Handel. And we're doing it just the two of us, so I'll be covering the continuo part completely just on the cello. We're not going to have any harpsichord or lute or anything. Even though that would be nice, I like that we're doing it just 2 string instruments because it really gives it like a duet feel with just the 2 string instruments. And we chose sonatas specifically that had somewhat interesting active continuo parts so that it would really feel like a duet in a sense. And so the album is called Old Friends, kind of because Laura and I are old friends. The composers that we're playing are the old friends of every classical musician, you know, composers like Handel, Vivaldi, we always go back to them. So we are trying to raise some money for this album. It's a pretty modest fundraiser when you consider that it's a full-length album, because full-length albums usually need thousands and thousands of dollars because you're paying an engineer, a producer, a label, all sorts of things. But because we are self-producing this album, it's going to be a much smaller scope for the project. So definitely check out the fundraiser. I'm going to be talking about it a lot today because this music is for the album that the fundraiser is for. The link is in the description of the video, but it's obviously right there too. And we're doing rewards and perks for all different donation levels. The most appealing, if you're on the fence about donating, is the $10 donation level because that gets you a free copy of the album. It's basically like pre-ordering the album, but it helps us meet our fundraising goal, which is really cool. And then there's better perks if you want to donate even more. You can get extras. We're going to be recording videos. We're going to have a blast recording this album. We're doing it at the end of June, we'll be recording, and hopefully by late summer, early fall, we're going to be releasing the album. And because we're doing it ourselves, we can release it super fast. We don't have to wait on a label or anything like that. So it's a super exciting project. I'm thrilled about it. So that's why I'm here doing this stream. I'm going to start practicing the parts and kind of talking about playing bass lines, what I think about, stuff like that. All right. So the Baroque cello and the modern cello, yes, they are different. I talk about this a lot. I have videos about it. My modern cello is in the case right now, actually, so I can't compare them side by side. Oops, that's what I get for not looking. Don't bump your instruments, kids. It's not good, even if the teacher does it. So this is my Baroque cello. It was built a modern cello in the 1950s, but it's somewhat converted into a Baroque setup. The biggest difference is the gut strings, which you can maybe see. These bottom ones are wound in silver, so they're not steel, and they have a gut core. And then these top strings, which you can maybe see are kind of a lighter, more natural color, are just what we call open gut, pure gut strings. So that gives it a really different sound right away. It's also tuned a half step lower, so my A is what a modern G sharp would be. It's got no end pin, so I'm just cradling the instrument with my legs. And also some other things, like I don't have fine tuners. This is a very simple tailpiece. The bridge is shaped differently, the fingerboard is shorter, and my bow is different too. It's got a pointier, lighter tip, lighter frog. It's a lighter bow in general with a different curvature of the bow also, which makes for different articulations. So this is the equipment I'm using. Laura's going to be using equivalent equipment, except she has a real 17th century violin, or is it 18th century? Someone just asked this. I think it's like from the 1690s. So her violin is really incredible, so super fun. I'm really excited to record her violin too. Okay. So that's about the equipment. And now for the repertoire. What did I say? I was going to start with Vivaldi, right? And I'm not even warmed up. I haven't played today, as always, on these streams. I just show up and I haven't even played. So I might do a few scales, just get a little bit warmed up, and then we'll get into the actual music. And I am, when I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the chat, so I am going to be checking in with you guys as much as I can. So let's see. We talked about starting with Vivaldi, so let me get my stuff together. I love playing Baroque bass lines. Like, I just live for this stuff. I really think it's the most fun thing in the world to play Continuo for someone. Okay. Alright, guess it's time to play. I've been so busy, like, setting up the stream, talking. I feel like I've been all over the place today, but now I gotta just play my cello. So, hello everybody. If you're just joining, maybe I won't say the whole intro again since I just said it, but I will say it later in the stream. And as always, I like to remind you guys, if you're curious about like which rosin I use, this tuning box that I always use to tune myself, there should be a link to my Amazon shop in the description that just has my favorite like basic cello accessories. And these are of course accessories that would work on modern cello too, because I know not all of you guys play on Baroque instruments. Parts of playing on an early instrument. But at least there's only 4 strings, because I remember when I was learning and practicing viola da gamba, which has 6 or 7 strings, and the pegs are really small and close together. If you guys don't know what a viola da gamba is, just Google it. It's a very cool, amazing instrument. But the pegs are really small and really close together, so some of them you can't even like really turn the peg without like kind of squeezing your fingers in there. And then you gotta tune all the strings, and one goes out and you're going back. That was tedious. There would be some days where I'd go to practice viola da gamba, and by the time I was done tuning it, I didn't even want to practice anymore. So 4 strings will always seem reasonable. Okay, and how's the volume on the cello? Is it too loud? If it gets distorted sounding, let me know. The streams are usually pretty quiet when I watch them back, so I'll just leave it, but if it sounds distorted or weird, let me know, and I'll adjust. Okay, so we're gonna start with this Vivaldi, and it is G minor. So maybe I'll just do like a little G minor scale to get going, and then we'll get into the repertoire. I'll put the sheet music up and everything. Okay, well, I wouldn't exactly call that an adequate warm-up, but I think that's enough to start getting started. So let's get this Vivaldi up on the screen so you guys can follow along. Like I said, I recommend full screening if you're trying to read the music, full screen the video. But it's just there as a guide. So this is, and I'm going to figure out how to be, I got to go, which way do I have to go? This is harder than it looks, you guys. Okay, I need to come over this way. All right. So this is a Vivaldi Violin Sonata, as you can see. This is the facsimile part. We don't know if it's Vivaldi's hands, but these handwritten copies do date back to the time period. If you haven't read one of these kinds of parts before, there are a couple things about them that are different. You know, notes are still notes, of course. The staff is still the staff. That's a bass clef on the second line, a little swirly. But some things that are a little different. The top part, which is the violin part, and the bottom part, which is the cello part, or the Basso Continuo part, they're not always going to line up the way a score we line up all the beats. They're not actually always going to line up in the right places. Rhythmically, when you play them, they do, but the way they write the score, they weren't worried about lining them up properly all the time. Sometimes measures get split across the line, so you can see right away on this first system of the double staff that that's a half measure at the end there. And then the other half of the measure's on the next line. So they usually write like a little squiggle at the end to say that the measure continues on to the next line. So sometimes the measures are broken up. In terms of accidentals, they do not carry through the measure the way they do in modern print. If you have an F sharp written, that F is going to be sharp for the whole rest of the measure. That is not how they did it back then. They just marked every note individually, so they can be an F sharp, and then if it's not marked F sharp later, it's likely then an F natural. They also didn't use a natural sign. They usually used a flat sign. So if there was, for example, like an F sharp in the key signature, and they wanted to make it an F natural, they would mark it as an F flat, but that just meant F natural. Wow, it's amazing that there was not, I think that might just be someone vacuuming. There was no sound at all when I started this, and now I'm hearing like a machine sound, which if you've watched any of my recent live streams, I keep having issues with like construction in my building and stuff like that. But I think that might just be someone vacuuming, so that will probably stop. And you guys might not be able to hear it, it's pretty soft. Okay, so here we are with Vivaldi. I am playing the second line, which is the cello line, and Laura will be playing that top line. So, let's, this is what I actually do to learn a piece. So all this music that I'm doing with Laura, the Corelli sonata that we're doing, we've played some of those movements, but I actually don't know these sonatas very well. We picked them out because they seemed like good choices, but I'm going to be getting to know them here on the stream, and also once Laura and I start rehearsing. You missed the power tools. I don't. So what I often do when I'm learning a new piece is I pull up a recording, not to imitate or anything like that, just to kind of get an idea for the context, because especially when you're playing bass lines or something that isn't the melody, sometimes it can be hard to understand what exactly is even going on. So that doesn't mean I have to listen to the whole thing, but it's nice to sometimes just be like, oh, okay, now I have an idea for the vibe of this movement or whatever. So, I am going, and I have just used Spotify for recordings, which, by the way, all of my repertoire, my recordings, are also on Spotify. So if you use Spotify to listen to music, definitely search for Emily Davidson and click follow, because then it'll let you know when the new album is up on Spotify, which it will be. So, if I pull up this Vivaldi G minor... Okay, that gives me an idea. So that's kind of what I like to do. Get some context, and then experiment and practice on my own. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to kind of play through. And as things jump out at me to comment on or practice or work on, you know, I'm just winging it. We'll just talk about it as we go. Thanks so much, Roraline. I'm glad you like the videos. And it makes me happy that a lot of non-cellists enjoy the videos too and find something to gain from them. That's great. Move that, okay. it because we need a good G for G minor. If Vivaldi and Bach had a child, I mean, you know, I feel like Bach and Vivaldi kind of borrowed from each other anyway. They were kind of inspired by each other in a way, I like to think. All right, let's play this bass line. See how far we get. Isn't this so great? Oh, I just love bass lines like this. This is like the dream, to play these bass lines. So many things to talk about already, just in the spirit of bass line playing. So one of the kind of basic rules of playing in the Baroque style is the idea that when we have stepwise motion, notes that are conjunct right next to each other on the staff, that we play those a little bit more legato. And when we have larger leaps, like thirds or anything larger, octaves, fifths, we play those a little bit shorter with articulation. So right away, we get some good opportunities to do that. We start with a little cadential figure, 5-1. So that's going to be on the more short side when we first come in. But from there, we're going to want to get legato fast because we've got some stepwise, nice scale going up from G. But one of the challenges of being a continuo player is being expressive without getting in the way, because you're still supporting another part, but you have to be kind of balancing that all the time. So I wouldn't want to overdo it with the legato to the point that we're creating so much sound that we're covering the violin part. For example, like that's a bit much. But finding a way to be legato while still allowing a little bit of transparency in the sound so that the violin can still come through is really what we're going for. And we're going to, of course, crescendo, because those are just stepwise notes going up. So that's a natural crescendo. Oops, I got a whistle on that. And there's our top. Cadence. So whenever we reach a cadence, we're going to shorten up the articulation. But then we're back to melodic, so we can get legato again. And then bass line. That's what I think one of the most fun things of playing a bass line is when you get those two voices effect, like you're playing up on the higher string and you're jumping down to the lower strings and you're back and forth. You're essentially playing two voices, so you never want to like bring those parts together. You kind of want them to each be doing their own thing. So we get that whole little sequence, and what I would say about that is we have stepwise motion in the bass line, right? In the bass part of that, because this is stepwise, but so is this. So why am I not doing those super legato? Well, a couple of reasons, and this is where the exceptions to the rule start to come in. For one, because I want to differentiate between these voices, well, how do I differentiate? Articulation's a big one. So one of the ways I'm doing that is I'm making the higher part, the more melodic part, legato. making the bass notes shorter so they sound more like a bass line. Keeping those a little more short. Now, depending on Laura's phrasing, all of this is a little bit up for debate, because if she wants to do something super legato and we're playing at the same time, it will likely make sense for us to kind of match articulations. But my default right now is keeping the lower notes on the shorter side so they have that more kind of bass line feel, and the upper stuff more legato. Also, all this stepwise motion in the bass part, the first note of all of those little bass sequences is coming on a weak part of the measure or of the beat. So because of that, we don't want to over legato them because then they'll get too much emphasis. You're going to make people seasick if you do that kind of stuff. That's what we want to avoid. So that's why I'm keeping it short also. Yeah, unfortunately, musical sensitivity is not always the strength of younger students, high schoolers and stuff, because everyone's excited and they just want to play and want to show off. So there's usually not a lot of sensitivity in like high school orchestras or even some college orchestras because people are just too excited. Musical sophistication takes, you got to mature as a person too to reach musical maturity as well. I'm still kind of cut off. I wonder if I should move over just a little more. All right. That was a lot of talking. There's always so many things to talk about with bass lines. Can you guys tell I love bass lines? So the other thing I would say is this is a big sequence, right? This whole thing that I've just been working on. And so on. It's a sequence that's going down one note at a time. In general, a good default rule for sequences like that is if it's going down in register, you can decrescendo. So starting at the loudest and then let it decrescendo. But again, the violin part is also going to really affect how we're going to do dynamics and articulation. Though the bass line, remember, Baroque music was written from the bottom up. They wrote the bass lines and the continuo part first. So because of that, we have a pretty important job, and usually the phrasing that makes sense for us in terms of, whatever musically makes sense in the bass line often makes sense across the board because that's how they were writing the part. So much. My cello had some chill time to itself. I haven't been playing the last couple days. So now it's been going a little more out of tune. Okay, and you know what? I'm going to oil my strings a little bit. It shouldn't really need it, but I've been doing this lately. I talk about this all the time. So gut strings dry out really easily, and if you're getting a lot of squeaks and squawks, putting a little bit of oil on the string really helps. I just use olive oil. So can't hurt. Gonna oil up a little bit. Save you guys from some of my squeaks. Don't put it where the bow goes though, just put it up here. Alright, that should help. I'm assuming volume levels and everything are good since no one has said anything. Alright, I'm going to play this whole A section again. Because then we'll get into the B section, and anyone who plays music knows the B section always has more going on than the A section. By the way, I'm always going to have something to say. I can never get through this. When we go from the C to that F, that first F sharp, that's a tritone, expressive interval, and remember, in Baroque music, it's all about the harmony and the intervals, when to be expressive. So that's why I'm giving so much on that F sharp, is because the drop from the C to the F sharp is expressive. So that's why I'm going for it on that note. Okay. Yes, oil is not good for the bow hair. That's why we just put it up here on the strings. Let's go on to the second half. Cool, so a little more development now, some more accidental, some more stuff going on. So I don't know what is going on with that B flat that you guys might have seen that looks like an eighth note, but it's not filled in. It's an eighth note that's not filled in. And one thing of reading facsimiles or reading these older parts, if you guys ever do this, sometimes they have mistakes. And you have to use your music theory knowledge, or you can go look at a modern edition to know how to correct the error. Okay, so I'm sure there's stuff I could say here, but again, like I haven't looked at these parts yet, so this is still new for me. So I'm going to play this B section again and see what jumps out at me to talk about. It's a lot of, as you can see, it's a lot of the same motifs and the same ideas from the A section, so a lot of the same stuff that I already talked about applies. One of my favorite things in the world is cadencing in the relative major when you're in a minor key, which is what we just did. We just had a B flat cadence. It's going to sound so pretty when Laura's playing with me. And then octaves, good thing to talk about in bass lines. So you can see I was playing these octaves. Almost never do we want the lower octave to be louder than the upper octave. Unless the lower octave comes first, like if the passage is, then the lower octave would be more. But basically, whichever octave happens second should always be softer, because it's just reiterating the same harmony. And remember, Baroque music's all about harmony, so once we hit that note on the harmony, that's the moment. We don't need to put an accent on the second eighth note or the second beat, wherever it happens. We let that harmony happen on the first beat, and the octave that comes after is just going to be an echo that sits in the resonance of the first one. So that can be hard sometimes, like if your second octave is a note that naturally is louder on your instrument, like a lower note often. It's easy to want to do that and play loud on that octave, but we want to avoid that if we can. I'm double timing that. So the suspensions, these notes that are tied here, and I know there's no measure numbers or any way to tell what I'm talking about. I'm just going to refer to it by system on the page. So this is the second to last system on the page. And you can see we have quarter notes tied to an eighth note. So often in those situations, what we're dealing with is a suspension. And again, because it all comes down to harmony, when we have a suspension like that, we're often going to want to swell at the end of it, because the tied over note, that's the moment of the suspension that's going to have the most clash harmonically. So that's what we want to bring out. And then we have it. So good, so that's our first movement. I think that's already a good start for that. Now I'm realizing that for the next page, I printed, my copy's a little cut off on the bottom. Okay. Oh, do we still hear the vacuum? You know what, I wonder if it's not a vacuum, like they're fixing something here, so it might be something else, because I feel like no one would be vacuuming for this long. But I hope it's not too distracting. Are you lifting the bow a little over the string for a more airy sound? Oh yeah, this is your Sonata Riz. Hey, thanks for joining. So to get the airy sound, I'm mostly doing with pressure actually, because I like to have a legato sound even when it's airy. So depending on if I'm doing a short articulation, then I'm probably coming off a little bit, but it's mostly a matter of pressure and getting... Gut strings are all about finding your different kind of sound effects that you can do with your bow, since we're not adding expression with the left hand, finding all the different sounds and colors you can get with your bow. So the airy sound, I think, is just kind of a pressure, because I can still get it very much on the string. Thanks for stopping by, Kevin. So let's see about this next movement, this G, which is going to be fast, but I'm not going to play it fast today. As you guys can see at the bottom of the page there. So I'm going to have to come over to the computer and get the next page, because I was going to prep all this stuff beforehand, but, you know, life happened. So while I prep the next page of Vivaldi, it's going to be a little hard because it does go across 2 pages, but this. I will talk a little bit for the latecomers. So hello, everybody that has just joined recently. If you don't know, I am recording a new album with my violinist friend of 3 Baroque violin sonatas on period instruments. We are so excited about it. I haven't recorded an album in 4 years, so I am super excited about it. My friend Laura is such an amazing violinist. If you guys haven't watched the videos that we've recorded on YouTube, you should definitely check them out. They're actually all on the fundraising page on the Indiegogo, which has the big link underneath me right now. So you can go check out all the videos we did after. I just think her playing is the best. It's the bee's knees. So I'm really excited to be accompanying her on this album. It's really going to be kind of like a duet album, though. So we are raising some modest funding for this because we are self-producing the album. So we don't have to pay a label, an engineer, a producer. I'm doing all that stuff. So instead of asking for $25,000 like many fundraisers ask for, we are asking for $2,500, much more reasonable goal. So if you're interested in this album, please check out the fundraiser and donate whatever you can. You know, we're doing pre-orders for $10. So basically for funding us $10, you get the album. So it's essentially just pre-ordering the album, but it does help us reach our goal, which is great. All right, where did this screenshot go? Trying to find what I need here. And get this next page of Vivaldi up. And what I'm thinking already is that I'm not going to hit all the repertoire in this stream, so I will probably do another one of these streams with whichever repertoire we don't hit today, because I'm obviously going to be practicing this stuff regardless. All right. Getting warmer. Now the problem here is we need the end of this page. Oh, I know, I can get a little creative about this. Where does this movement start? Okay. All right, here's this. Oops, there's me. All right. Now, okay, this is not going quite as smoothly as I hoped. All right. I know what we can do. This is a little annoying to read, but for those of you who really care about following along with the music, I'm going to put the beginning of the movement over here on the other side. And then I'm going to put the rest of the movement here. Okay, does that suit everybody? Is everyone going to be okay with this option? So there we go, right? We got the jig all here. Cool. Hey Zarina, thanks for stopping by. Okay. All right, so onto a jig. Oh, I didn't realize it's gonna kind of block my head. I'll try to fit my head right in this little window between the music. Oh, Cello Suite 1 Courant. I've definitely recorded that on the channel. Go to my Bach Cello Suite playlist if you want to see it on Baroque cello. Okay, so for those who don't know, giga is a jig, which is a jig basically. It's an upbeat kind of dance. So, implied polyphony. I've never heard it explained that way, but implied polyphony, I would think, is what I was just talking about when you're basically playing two different voices at once. Like, you're obviously just playing your cello, but there's more than one melodic voice going on at a time. So like what I was doing earlier on in the first movement, when I was playing, because there's the bass voice and the top voice, I think that could be considered implied polyphony because it's implying that there's more than one voice, even though, yeah. Hope that answers your question, Adam. Okay, so I'm gonna go kind of slow. Bowing in the jigs are always kind of the issue. So let's just kind of play around with this, see if there's anything notable to work on. If not, we might move onwards because the sarabande looks pretty nice too. Oh, and we can do our little Spotify preview of the movement, though I'm not going to play this up to tempo. Okay, that gives us an idea, but now we're going to keep it chill. So the bowings in this part are pretty much all 2 and 1. And a lot of times you'll see G's that are slurred just all 3/8. There's a lot of different bowings that can work. I'm going to stick with the 2 and 1 for right now. But you're even going to see in the violin part, which we of course can't hear, sometimes the violin slurs are the whole measure, or there's some variant there. Sorry for the noise. Oh my god, it's getting crazy. I'm going to close the window so we're not hearing any more crashing excitement. We got enough crashing excitement with this Vivaldi. All right, back to work. Oops, all right. first A section. Little dull without the violin part, because it's, as you heard maybe from the quick preview, that the violin and the cello are going back and forth here, and as you can see in the score. But we get a nice chromatic ascending thing, great opportunity to be legato and also do a nice crescendo. So I'm now at the top of the second page, towards the end of the first line. Nice climb up there, so we definitely want that to be legato. And as you can see, we start to get a second melodic material that's starting on the second beat. Maybe you can hear it in the bass part, maybe you can't, but that little phraselet is starting on the second half of the measure. So acknowledging that rather than smoothing across that whole measure. It helps to put a little comma after the cadence, which is the D. Then we really get the feeling that the phrase starts on the second part of the measure there. Okay, so that's that. Ooh, we got some shifting in the second part. Let's see what's going on in this B section. Fun, this is why we picked this one. Sequence there. And of course when we have the violin part, it's going to help because you can see there's going to be trading off between both parts. But you know, in Vivaldi especially, you get a lot of repeated material, kind of the same sort of things over and over again. So it really falls on you to make a point of making some variation in there, whether you're just doing phrasing across, like you're decrescendoing the way down, or you're varying the articulation. There's endless options, so you always want to take the opportunity there. You know, you want to try to be stylistic, but in general, looking for variation that you can execute is always a good thing. And I know I'm going slow, but bow stroke, I'm still trying to kind of maintain the right idea, which is that I don't want to be too smooth and wishy-washy with this jig when I have the eighth notes, basically. It needs to be rustic, and that'll be easier when it's at a faster speed, but we don't want it to be too mushy. So even this, I'm going slow. I'm getting off the string on those separate bow notes. We wouldn't want. Someone modern would play it that way, but that doesn't have the lightness of the dance that we need. Crescendo through that cadence, but we could do the opposite. We could decrescendo to the cadence. I'm not going to make any really strong musical decisions because that'll all be stuff I work out with Laura once we start working on it together. Good, let's keep going because there's still a little more of this movement. And then look, we start to get some different bowings. After doing a lot of the 2 and 3, we start to get slurs of complete 3s. And then these are separate. Oops. thing too. They're separate because we have these big leaps, and it helps to not have the slurs in that instance. Okay, so I actually think that gives us a pretty good idea of this movement. I say we keep on trucking, and we look at this nice saraband, which looks really fun. And I know the last movement's a little nuts, so we'll see how much we even do with that today. Well, let me come up and get the next movement up there for you guys to look at. All right, now we can get this little extra guy out of here because, yeah, we are done with that. Okay. Onwards to the saraband. So if you have just joined recently, I am practicing all the music for my new album, which is an album of 3 violin sonatas by Vivaldi, which I'm playing right now, Corelli, and Handel. And they are with my fantastic friend Laura, all on period instruments. It's going to be such a great album, basically like a violin cello duet album of Baroque music. What more could you want? And really fun repertoire that I think everybody can love. So if you're interested in supporting the album in any way, we would love to have your support. You can see the fundraiser link is very obviously right there, and it's also a clickable link in the description of the video. But if you're enjoying the stream, you find this useful, you're excited about the album, please consider donating. The fundraising page has all the information that you need about the album. The program is listed on the actual page. There's a video there talking all about me and Laura with samples of our playing, so you can get an idea of more what the album is really going to be about. We're super excited for it, and I haven't done an album in 4 years, and doing these self-produced albums is sort of how I got my start in being a Baroque cellist out there in the internet world. So it's a really special thing for me. And we're doing, for just a $10 donation, you get a digital copy of the album. So it's just like pre-ordering, but it helps us meet our goal. So just even $10 really does go a long way. So let's get onwards to this saraband. And remember to full screen the video if you're trying to read the music. Make it a little easier. I'm going to fix this. All right, and we're going to do our little Spotify preview to give us an idea of this saraband. Makes me wish Laura was here. It'd be even better if we had some violin action. But one of the things we're going to be doing for the album, we're going to be recording videos, doing all sorts of stuff besides just recording the album itself, so that there's lots of fun content. And on the Indiegogo, there's all sorts of rewards. So like I said, the $10 donation gets you the digital album, but all the different donation levels will get you different things, like early access to the videos, outtake videos. We're going to be doing like Q&A, Skype sessions, all sorts of stuff. And Laura's so knowledgeable. She's a great teacher too. So it's going to be awesome. All right, we got this nice walking bass line. responding to Laura and what she's going to be doing on the violin part. You know, a lot of times I'm probably going to be taking little breaths and commas in my eighth note phrasing that line up with where her breaths and commas are going to be on her longer held notes. So that already is going to be something that's going to help shape it. And then from there, basically what I'm doing is, you know, playing around when I have stepwise versus not stepwise. So a little more legato on the closer notes and then a little bit more space when it's thirds or above. So actually fairly straightforward in this movement. But still really nice. And I might do the second half again, because like everything, the second half's a little more elaborate. So I'll probably look at that. Yeah, so starting at the B section, which is basically like the second system of this score. Keep squeaking on that, so I'm going to do it again. It's actually harder than it seems. Too much to say on that movement. I think it's going to be really beautiful and nice once we do it together, but not actually that much to say. So I'm deciding if I even want to do this last movement today, or if we'll maybe jump to something else. How long have I been streaming? About an hour, which is a good amount of time. Only because it's also, again, so much interplay with the violin part. So there's actually not going to be too much to say in this last movement. So maybe what we'll do is preview a little bit of another sonata, but maybe this stream is just going to be Vivaldi and I'll have to do some streams for the other ones. But let's see. We'll look at one more movement of something. Let's do, I kind of want to do Corelli because why not? And actually the first movement of the Corelli Sonata has been recorded on my YouTube channel. But it's got a really nice bass line, so maybe we'll end with that. It'll be the last thing I play for today's stream. And guys, not trying to be clingy, but no one's donated to the album, and that's what this stream is all about, donating to the album. So if you're on the fence, will be super appreciated. But you can also check out the Kickstarter, of course. I mean the Indiegogo. It's not a Kickstarter. You can also check out the fundraiser after the stream is over, because I know you can't really like watch the video, and if you're trying to watch the stream, you can't really check that out. So that I get. Now this score here for this Corelli is horizontal, so we'll see how it's gonna work fitting it on the screen. Oh, and it's this monstrous PDF because it has all of the sonatas in there, so just give me a second to get to the right one. The vacuum's still going. The vacuum had to come. I don't even know if it's a vacuum. Who knows? But my streams just need a little extra excitement beyond just my cello playing, apparently. It's okay. This PDF is huge, but it's so amazing that this stuff is just free online, that you can get all this sheet music. Again, imslp.org. People ask me where I get my music. 98% of the time, that's where I get it. Okay. So here we go. Gonna end with a little Corelli. If you guys don't know who Corelli is, he is one of my favorite composers ever. 17th century Italian. So, boom, in front of my face. How are we gonna do this that is gonna make sense? Maybe like that. Because then once I get back in place, I'll just come back now. Is that good? Is it not good? It's the best I can do with a horizontal angle. So, if you don't know about Corelli, he is a 17th century Italian composer. He wrote a ton of string music specifically. He was a violinist. He wrote treatises, which were basically like method books of the time period, on Baroque string playing. I mean, it was just string playing in the Baroque period. It wasn't called Baroque string playing. It was just called string playing. But Corelli was really big on ornamentation, wrote whole treatises, wrote out his sonatas with written out ornamentation that he would have done. He wrote a bunch of concerto grosso. You might know the Christmas concerto that he wrote, which is a concerto grosso. It doesn't have one soloist. It has a soloist in each section of the orchestra. So like a violin 1 soloist, violin 2 soloist, cello solo, etc. So he wrote a bunch of concerto grosso for string orchestra. And then he also wrote these amazing violin sonatas, which is what we'll be playing. And I just love Corelli. So, do I like any modern composers? Yeah, I mean, I don't listen to that music so much anymore, but I actually really like Shostakovich. I was a big Dvorak fan back in my day. I like the French music as well, so like the Ravel, Fauré stuff I sometimes like also. Who else? That kind of touches on it, on the big ones anyway. Yeah, Christmas Concerto is awesome, and he wrote a bunch of concerto grosso that are all great. I mean, Christmas Concerto is good, but all of them are good. And all the violin sonatas are good. Like, Corelli's just solid. And me and Laura both love him, so we had to. We had to do Corelli. So anyway, I'm going to play this Adagio here, which as you can see has a really nice active bass line. And if you like this bass line, Laura and I did record this video a while ago. It's up on the Indiegogo page with everything else. Once you watch the main video about the fundraiser, you can click through, and I put all our other videos that we've done in the past up there, so you can just hear us play together for your own entertainment. So, let's end on a little Corelli. We're having an Italian fest with the Vivaldi and Corelli. Let me just make sure I'm really not hidden by the music. Getting a little further from the microphone, but hopefully that's okay. Okay, new key, C major. Same pattern and I didn't read the notes. Yeah, such a nice little bass line. Let's see what you guys. I know, when are we gonna we gotta start commissioning somebody to compose pieces for all the various noises that I have outside of my apartment building. So what I am playing now, so this is by Corelli, and this is his third violin sonata. And actually, if you want the exact specifics of everything that this is called, again, on the Indiegogo, if you go, that says About Us and Repertoire, and it has a list of all the pieces we're playing, and you will see the one by Arcangelo Corelli, and that's this piece. So I would just click to the Indiegogo and scroll down. You'll see the listing of the piece names. So yeah, this bass line is so nice. We already encountered a couple things that I already talked about, like the octave leaps we had. Very common in bass lines to have octaves like that. So we had that. And then we have this 8th, 16th rhythm. I'm always doing a new down bow if you didn't notice. New down bow. I'm just trying not to make it too much of a thing. Like, I don't want to over accent that new down bow, but for bow reasons, it's good to do a new down bow there. And then other things notable, I'm trying to keep a sort of legato smooth stroke because it is a slow movement. It's more melodic. This bass line, has a lot of stepwise motion and melodic material, but I'm always keeping that kind of airy, transparent sound because I'm not playing the melody, I'm playing the bass line, so I have to leave room for the solo to really shine through. So I'm never overpowering or playing, super long. And I feel like there was one other thing I was going to mention here. That's mostly it. I'm going to be doing, so basically today I played most of the Vivaldi sonata, and then I touched on this Corelli, but there's other movements of this Corelli sonata to be done. There's still the Handel sonata, which I didn't even touch today. So I think I'm going to be doing more of these live streams, practicing all this repertoire. I'm going to get rid of this now that we're done with it. So I'm going to definitely be doing more streams of this kind of stuff, going over these bass lines and talking about them because I'm practicing and working on them anyway. But I think today, since we got through most of the Vivaldi, I'm going to call it on today's stream. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you tuned in later and you don't know, I'm recording a brand new album, my first album in 4 years. It's with one of my musical best friends of a lifetime. She's an amazing Baroque violinist. We're recording 3 Baroque violin sonatas on period instruments. We are self-producing and doing the album ourselves, but don't think that doesn't mean that the album's not going to sound good. All my other albums have been self-produced, and I think they sound awesome. You can check those out on Spotify if you want. Search Emily Davidson or search Bass Sounds. You'll find my cello albums that were self-produced. They sound completely professional, so it's not like it's going to be a super homemade sounding thing. So we're really, really excited about doing this album. We are trying to raise some funds that are just going to pay me and Laura. We don't have to pay an engineer, producer, blah, 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 because I'm all of that. So the money's just going to go to help us do this recording, support this project, and because the album is going to be available on Spotify, on YouTube, on free streaming services, you, by funding the album, actually help the album reach more people in general, even people who don't buy the album because they can get it for free on streaming services or whatever. So you're actually helping spread this early music all around the world by helping the campaign. So definitely check it out. There's a whole video on there about the album. You can learn about it. The link is in the description of the video. If you like this stream, please give it a thumbs up. Like I said, I'm going to be doing more of these, so if you're new to my channel, make sure you're subscribed, then you'll get a notification that I'm going live most of the time. I think it's supposed to tell you. So yeah, I'll be doing more of these, and thank you guys so much for hanging out. Check out the fundraiser if you haven't. I can't be more blatant about that, but please do it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.